Hi everyone. I am your girl Lexy Mandy, and once again, you're welcome to Lexy Mandy TV. Okay, I am a lot of things, and one of the things I am is a registered dietitian. So I will be using this opportunity to give a little nutrition education on a very serious disease, sickle cell. The sickle cell disease is an inherited disorder of the red cells in the blood, which makes the sufferer experience, would I say, varying kinds of ill health all through life. You get. So for people who don't know, there are various types of abnormal hemoglobin, and they are represented by different letters of the alphabet. We have the S, we have the C, the H, the I, we have the G, and the D. But the abnormal hemoglobin peculiar in Africa is the S and the C hemoglobin. And a sickler is one who carries two abnormal hemoglobin seeds in their blood. And this makes them prone to, would I say, chronic ill health, acute recurrent blood shortage, and pains in various parts of the body. And I would explain a little bit further. The normal hemoglobin, as God created it, lasts for a period of 120 days. Would I say a period of 100 to 120 days? But it's not a bad thing, because before it gets to 120 days, new ones are being produced. You get? So these new ones that are being produced will replace the old ones once they start to disintegrate. But in this case, where the hemoglobin seeds are abnormal, the red cells exist for a period of 30 to 60 days. And by the time is at the 60th day, you don't have new ones produced and ready to replace. And that is what caused this abnormality in the hemoglobin, leading to what we call sickle cell. So when um, this red cell starts to age and gets to 30, 40, 50, 60 days, instead of reaching 120 days, it starts to die off. When this cell starts to die off and disintegrates prematurely, what happens is the round cell starts to elongate. You get, it becomes long, and after a while it curves and creates this shape of a farmer's sickle, and that is where scientists got the name sickle cell. So in a nutshell, the normal hemoglobin lives for a period of 120 days, but the abnormal one lives for a period of 30 to 60 days. What exactly causes this premature disintegration of the red cells is the fact that the protein quality in the hemoglobin is quite low. For those who don't know how one can become a sickler, here is an illustration of how a child can get 2S hemoglobin or two abnormal hemoglobin from his or her parents, thereby making this child a sickler. What is important here is not just a child being a sickler. First of all, we have to take note of ways we can find out that our child is a sickler and methods or the best way for intervention. For those who don't know how one can become a sickler, here is an illustration of how a child can get 2S hemoglobin or two abnormal hemoglobin from his or her parents, thereby making this child a sickler. What is important here is not just a child being a sickler. First of all, we have to take note of ways we can find out that our child is a sickler and methods or the best way for intervention. But for the first few months of a child's life, you may not know if that child is a sickler, because children are born with their own hemoglobin. It's called the fetal or the baby hemoglobin, which carries the baby up until 6 months before the baby now develops the adult hemoglobin. And at this time, you can detect if the child is a sickler or not. The indications include the following. If from the age of 6 months, you notice that your child's hands are usually warm and swollen, both hands and feet, and at the same time, this child does not eat much. You also get to find out that this child cries unnecessarily and nothing seems to pacify this child. Your child might be a sickler. So as at this point, go to the hospital and get your child tested to know if that child is a sickler or not. The most important order of the day is intervention. How do we intervene in cases like this? I am a dietitian, and I will come from the dietary approach. So far, sickle cell has no cure. So what do? We manage this disease condition the best way we can. And how do we manage this disease? I have some sort of guideline that I would advise sicklers or parents and guardians of sicklers to take note? Number one, your diet. Number two, healthy environment. Number three, prompt medical attention and follow-up. Number four, sound education and understanding of parents, family members, friends, guardians, caregivers, etc. Now, let me touch each of them a little bit. When it comes to diet, your diet must be adequate. Whether you're healthy or not, your diet has to be what? Adequate. And by adequate diet, I mean what we used to call balanced diet. This means consuming a meal which contains the 6 classes of food nutrients in the right proportion. The key phrase is right proportion, because what is right for me wouldn't be right for a child. The quantity, the consistency, and frequency of my meal and my nutrients or nutrients I should ingest wouldn't be the same for a child. Neither would it be the same for an elderly. So now we have to take note of what is right for our age, for our genders, for our physiological status, and whatnot. We have these 6 classes of foods. We have the proteins, carbohydrates, fats, vitamins, minerals, and water. We've already established the fact that this issue is as a result of having a poor protein quality in the blood cell. So guess what? The usefulness, the need of protein in a sickler's diet cannot be over-exaggerated. You need proteins if you are a sickler. What are your sources of protein so long as Nigeria is concerned? So long as your locality is concerned? We have a chicken, we have fish, we have beef, pork, milk, egg, granules, crayfish, etc. So what is available to you? Use what is readily available in your locality. Use what you can afford. If you can't afford chicken, buy crayfish. If you can't afford fish, buy. Just use what you can. There is soybean, there is beans and all. But the best kind of proteins are the proteins of high biologic value. Just in a nutshell, what we mean by this is the proteins good for you are proteins gotten from animals. So what are these proteins gotten from animals? We have our fish, we have our chicken, we have milk, we have egg, we have pork, etc. So those are the kind of proteins you should look into more. I'm not saying you shouldn't take beans, you shouldn't take soybean, you shouldn't take any other protein gotten from plant source or like granules and all. But what is more important right now, what would be better for you is to concentrate on proteins gotten from animals. Already you might be a child, you may have a child that is a sickler, and this child needs protein for growth, for repairs, for body buildings, and now needs protein, extra protein, because of what? The poor protein quality in the hemoglobin. So do you see why protein is very important? Fine. Moving on to carbohydrate. Carbohydrate on its own is needed for energy. We need carbohydrate for what? As an energy source. Every single individual, none of us can function without energy. So in this case, it is very important, not only because of energy, but because if you don't take carbohydrates, proteins will be converted to energy. Now, proteins will not be used for its function, which is repairs, which is growth, which is body building. No, it will now be used for what? Energy. And this is a process, a pathway we call gluconeogenesis, where the body produces energy from a non-carbohydrate source. Carbohydrates should provide the body with energy, but when you don't take enough carbohydrates, proteins will be used for what? Energy. So carbohydrates is protein-sparing nutrients. For you to have your proteins and have your proteins concentrate on its work, take enough carbohydrates for what? Energy. Fat is also a very important part of our meal. Yes, a lot of people are scared of fat, like, oh, I don't want to add weight, I don't want to gain weight and all that, but your body cannot function even without fat. Fat is used for total body maintenance. Fat serves as a protector for organs in the body. Fat serves as some sort of shock absorber for the system. So in as much as you may be scared of fat, fat is good for you. Just don't overdo it. That is why I keep saying pay attention to the phrase eating in the right proportion. Don't overeat it. You want to know what quantity of fat you need, consult a dietitian. Vitamins and minerals, on the other hand, these are micronutrients. They may be required in small quantities, but they are very essential. For fats, proteins, and carbohydrates to function, they need vitamins and minerals, because vitamins and minerals are nutrient enhancers. So without vitamins and minerals, some of these major nutrients like carbohydrate, fats, and protein will not function properly. Yes, we need them in small quantities, but we need them and they are essential. Most importantly is water. So if you like, eat from now till tomorrow, make your diet as adequate as you can, but you must stay hydrated, especially if you are a sickler. You owe it to yourself to stay hydrated. You don't have to wait to be thirsty. Always have a can of water. If you have a child who is a sickler, always put cans of water in his or her bag. Have the teachers involved, have classmates involved, have friends involved, because now this child didn't create his or herself. He or she came into this world with this sickness inherited from parents. So right now it is everybody's duty to make sure that this child is properly taken care of. Now, one way to monitor your water intake or the water intake of your child, if you have a sickler at home, is this. You can put 1.5 liters or 2 liters of water in a child's bag and have the teachers make sure this child finishes that 2 liters before coming back home. So you are expecting to see an empty can of water when the child comes back from school. That is one way to monitor this. So we've talked about diet and all that. Another thing I would also add to diet is when you have a child who is a sickler, or if you are a sickler, there are stuffs you should always have around you, and there are stuffs you should totally avoid. If you are a sickler, you shouldn't step out of your house without glucose. You shouldn't step out of your house without water. You have no business with gassy soft drinks. You have no business with fizzy drinks. You have no business with carbonated drinks. No. So instead of having, let's not mention brand names, instead of all these carbonated drinks we see around, you could every weekend make zobo. It's easy. Or have a hygienic place where you buy zobo and buy enough that will serve you for the week. If you have a child or children or words that are sicklers, or you have a sickler at home, you owe it to this child to every weekend make 5 liters or 10 liters of what zobo and have it refrigerated. Why? So that when his classmates are going to school with water and maybe some of these carbonated drinks, you package zobo in small cans for this child to serve as what? The extra refreshment. If you can get tiger nut drink for this child, beautiful. If you can provide this child with fresh fruit juices, all the better. An orange squash is better any day. Lucozade Boost is better any day to those sodas we have everywhere. So do right by you and do right for your child if you have a sickler. On the second note, we talked about healthy environment. You have to let your child know, your ward know, that okay, I am special, I am a special case. You have to educate your child on the disease condition. You have to teach your child on what is at stake and what is at hand. Because this is not an issue where it's okay, let's play about it. Anything could happen. Crisis could come about any time. So this child has to know that, okay, I am special, I am a little bit different. And you have to make the environment conducive for your child and yourself if you are a sickler. Avoid unnecessary stress. It is so not necessary. Whatever would cause you to gas out or lead to shortage of breath, avoid it. You don't need to run. You don't need extreme sports. You just don't need to show off physically. No. You can engage yourself with board games. You can engage yourself with mental games, mental discussions. We have our PlayStations, and for those who can afford it, but you can engage that child with what board games or any other, kind of games that require one's mental strength. You have to make your child aware of the disease condition at hand and the best way to go about it. The third point I talked about is prompt medical attention and follow-up. The moment you detect crisis or you notice that you are about to go into crisis, consult your doctor immediately. Get to the hospital, drink a lot of water, drink Lucozade Boost for energy, drink glucose dissolved in water for energy. Do this immediately and wait for medical attention. Request for it as immediate as possible and go on with proper follow-up. The fourth point is understanding of parents, caregivers, guardians, and friends, which is one of the things we do as nutritionists, as dietitians. We try to educate the masses at large as much as we can about disease conditions, ways they can be taken care of, preventive measures, interventions, and management measures too. You have to know this disease. If you have a ward or a child who is a sickler, you have to know this disease, know how to manage it, and teach this child how best to manage this disease condition. Everyone around the child has to be aware that, okay, this child is special and this is how we treat this child. You have to be a little bit biased with this child, whether you like it or not. You have to show a lot of love to this child. You have to show a lot of care to this particular child. So if you are a mom or a dad of a sickler, do your best to keep this child safe. If you are a sickler, do your best to keep yourself safe. Most importantly, when you are confused, consult a dietitian. If you have questions, use the comment section below. If you have a dietitian around you, do not be scared to consult that dietitian. Do not be scared to ask questions. Do not wait for issues to get severe before you rush to a dietitian. No, make dietitians your friends. We are here for you, and this is what we signed up for.